So for our next review, we're going to be doing Barry season 4. It is done. Everything like that. This is the final season. They had their series finale this past last Sunday. So everything's wrapped up. This is the Bill Hader show. Before it was kind of started off like, oh, it's this little quirky kind of dark comedy, but then it just mostly just got dark after pretty much season 1.
Yeah, after season 1, season 2 kind of delves more into that darkness. And then seasons 3 and 4 are, in many ways, they're basically horror.
Yeah. I mean, you see this guy, Bill Hader, who's playing the titular character, Barry, who's just becoming more and more deranged as kind of things go on. You have all these kind of, this really is no really good person, quote unquote, in the show. Like all these people are really kind of, morally gray or just, bad people because you have, a hitman and you have gangsters in this, and it's done with such a really good comedic tone with everything. And given Bill Hader, who is doing the show, who of course he's a comedian, was on SNL for a long time.
Emmy-winning comedian. It's one of our great SNL performers, a steady kind of comedy mainstay. It was like you go back into like the 2000s comedy boom, especially with the rise of like people like Judd Apatow. He was in all of those.
Yeah, very true. So this is, if you've never seen Barry, we're going to discuss a lot of elements from the show, especially from the past season. We'll discuss season 4. So if you haven't watched the show at all, we're going to be discussing that. I don't think we're probably going to get too spoilery with season 4.
I feel like you can't really talk about the ending of the show without going to spoilers. You can't talk about a lot of what Bill Hader was going for with telling this story.
Okay, we discussed a little spoilers there with season 4 then. So in this season 4 of Barry, if you watch the other past seasons, he got put in prison for murdering his acting coach's fiance there. I think it was his fiance.
His girlfriend. No, it was just his girlfriend.
Oh, just his girlfriend. Okay. It was just his girlfriend. Got put in prison for that. There in prison, he's trying to strike up a deal with the FBI, trying to work out something there. First, which originally was Fuchs' deal, which is Stephen Root's character there.
Fuchs is such a fascinating character because he's like this. If I can't have him, no one will. And the second Barry apologized to him after he's like beaten within an inch of his life, Fuchs is like, yeah, I'm with Barry again.
Yeah. It's interesting, like, his relationship, and you see a little bit more of Barry's past here in this season. Also, you kind of see a little bit of comparisons between Fuchs and between Henry Winkler's character, and how, it's just kind of like these father figures in his life of people kind of guiding him and kind of telling him what to do and trying to, to have his, because this season kind of started off with, the series kind of started off with wanting him to find purpose. He's like, I kind of don't want to do the hitman thing anymore. I'm kind of beyond that. I want to find more purpose in life. And then he gravitated towards acting, and he found a father figure in that with Henry Winkler. But then, you had kind of the old life always kind of calling him back there. And it was always these funny kind of happenstance that it would happen where he'd be like, okay, I'm trying to get out of the life. But then somebody was like, even when somebody would catch him, he'd be like, I need you to kill somebody. They would go right back to where he was.
It was like, there. That's like, and yeah, that one of my favorite moments of that was in season 2. It was the episode before the iconic episode Ronnie Lily, where it's like, it's like, I got you on tape. You killed this guy. It all goes away. It's like, and it just cuts out with him saying, "What?"
Yeah, like the thing about Barry is. It's very akin to it. So okay, it's kind of okay. So it's kind of like Dexter in the sense of, and I've said this. I think I've tweeted this. I was like, if I knew Dexter lived next door to me, I'd bake him cookies once a week. It's like, oh, you're saving the taxpayers this much by killing these child molesting pieces of shit. Awesome, but the thing is, Barry just kills because he's good at it. And there's a point,
it's like something that I think, especially once you get towards the end of the season of the series, and you listen to Bill Hader talk about the character of Barry, I feel like in something that was his intention, he wanted to demystify characters like this.
Yes.
Because so much of these like Sigma male alpha YouTubers, they quote Heisenberg, they quote like Dexter, they worship people like Patrick Bateman. And Bill Hader wanted to remove all of the glamour off of that.
Yeah.
Like get really deep down into, no, this dude is a psychopath.
Yeah. And there is just that point where you realize like, nah, Barry is just like Barry's just a monster. And like one that's capable of feeling regret at points.
He's capable of feeling regret, and this gets really fascinating towards the latter half of this season. He's capable of feeling regret, but he also refuses to take personal responsibility for the things he does.
And that's the key component right there, is that there's a point where the sympathy and the guilt is just non-existent.
And so much of the show is testing your capacity for empathy for Barry.
Yes.
And to an extent the other characters like Gene Cousineau, like Sally, and like NoHo Hank. And the show is constantly picking and prodding you and testing the limits of your empathy.
The thing that's so fascinating about Cousineau is that he's so much like Barry in the sense that his line keeps getting like, he keeps moving the goalposts as far as what he's willing to do, but trying to justify that he's a good person. And they're in the same way that killing is really all Barry knows at the end of the day. Being a fame whore is all Cousineau really wants. Like at the end of the day, like because the show does a great job of making you think like Cousineau, like losing the person that he's supposedly he's gonna learn from this. And at the end of the day,
losing the person he loves, finally catching the man who did it. You feel like in the show sets you up so well is like, yes, this is gonna change him. And that lasts for about like 5 seconds.
Yeah, and it's tragic in the way, especially, and really quite selfish when you think about it, and the fact that he gets more closure than so many other people, most people that would be in a situation where someone they love gets killed.
Yeah, like even a big plot point that was in season 3, it was like Fuchs trying to sick the families of Barry's victims onto him. Is like Cousineau got so much more closure than any of them.
Yes, and to see that not be enough, and he's the one that caught him too. You're just like, dude, you literally brought him to justice, and you can't let it go.
Yeah, it's characters that cannot take their win, that are just so narcissistic and so fame and glory hungry that they cannot accept the win they have.
Yeah. And so here, like you said, he's in prison at the beginning at the start of the season. You see him and kind of trying to come to grips with things of like, okay, maybe I'm going to be in it for a while. What am I going to do? He's still trying to get back in touch with Sally, who was his girlfriend there, who just left. I mean, at the end of it, she just got on the plane and went back home. And I like how not just with Barry, but with everybody in the show, you really get to expound upon a lot of these characters. And when Sally goes back home, you see kind of her upbringing, where she kind of has more of a pushover father and kind of an overbearing mother.
A mother who is really dismissive of her, who the entire time, it's like something that they do in the show in the first episode. It's like they watched the show that Sally made in the previous season together, the one that was talking about her past with her abusive partner. And the entire time, all her mother is talking about is, you used his actual name. I'm going to have to talk to his mother now.
Which immediately makes you go, A, that's what you're taking away from the show. And then your immediate follow-up is, wait, you still talked with mom? Like, you're still on speaking terms? Like, it's such a 1-2 combo that you're like, oh, fuck. And then, so I think we've all had an ex or a friend that we had to cut off where you meet the parents and you realize, oh, this puts so much of your red flags in perspective because of how your parents are. And that is like, it's textbook with her parents. It's like,
it's like, one parent is like wholly dismissive of everything she has to say. And her father is just like, she's my princess, she can do no wrong, which is just like a recipe to create a narcissist.
He's just trying to get through the day so his head can hit pillow. Like that's exactly like he's in survival mode. Like remember that episode of that 70s show where Betty White, R.I.P. And her husband Kitty's parents show up, and you just go, you get why Kitty laughs the way she does when she's frustrated, because her mother is just such a backhanded bitch. You're just like, God damn, like this is a shit that crushes someone's self-esteem. And here's what I'll say about this that made me hate Barry and Sally, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's what made me honestly hate them so much in this season. It's bad enough, and again, to go back, like, we've all been out at a bar or whatever, and you see that couple that's hanging out together, and you're just like, oh man, y'all are like so close to a fight, or you're like Nick, you know, you go to clubs enough, you know what I mean, where like the body language is just off.
I know exactly what you mean.
and then part of you know,
yeah,
like
part of you is like, I know I should get out of here, but I kind of want to watch the fireworks.
Exactly. And that's bad enough. But they bring a kid into this world. And the
spoilers.
Oh, shit. Are we not talking spoilers yet? Oops.
Not at the moment.
I didn't say anything. What?
Okay, but yeah, but all of that stuff that Bill Hader is working on, trying to again expound more on the characters of Barry, Sally, and Jean and Fuchs, getting them into these new places. And so much of like so much of Hader as a writer, he wanted to explore what is it going to be like when these characters get exactly what they want, and going into like the monkey's paw of it all, and how you got on paper exactly what you wanted, but then digging into that, your life is still fucked.
It's that fascinating point of when a writer kind of writes himself into a corner intentionally, because that's really what they did. Like, you know, with Barry. Yeah, that's
been every season of this show, and somehow Bill Hader, Alec Berg, the entire crew behind this, they managed to do it.
Yeah. I would rather have a show, and I won't lie. Like, there is that part of me that's like, I'm sad it's over, but I would rather have a show get out while the getting's good than stretch out past,
6-7 seasons.
Yeah.
It's not even like
I'd rather have 4 perfect seasons of TV.
Yeah.
Exactly. I would say Barry is, and just to get my final thoughts out there, this is peak television.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like every single week I was absolutely gripped. I was laughing. I was in awe of Bill Hader's strengths as a director, his use of cinematography, his use of negative space, because there are points in this where I was just saying, yo, can we get Bill Hader a horror movie to direct? Because I feel like he would crush that shit.
It feels like that's where he's probably heading. I think it's
another great sketch comedian going into horror.
Yeah, I think it's season 3. Yeah, should be season 3, where he's trying to kill Fuchs, and there's that shot of him walking to the darkness.
Oh, that's the last shot of season 2, actually.
Oh, it's 2. Okay, and that is still one of my favorite shots I've seen in the last 5 years, where I was just like, holy shit, you nailed this.
Yeah, and then you get in season 3 a reverse of that, where you have Sally. This is after this video of her just screaming at her former assistant, and her entire ranch, she's just slowly backing up further and further into the darkness. And that visual motif comes back beautifully in this season.
That rant in particular on the elevator is one of those things where you go, so it did remind me somewhat of like the Christian Bale rant.
And I think that was intentional.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because as much as this show is kind of a psychological character study, it's also a deep satire into the entire culture and system of Hollywood.
it's very reminiscent. I think a lot of people thought about those Mel Gibson tapes, where when you kind of read the transcript, you went, okay,
It's
this could sound like me like fucked up but maybe funny, but then you actually hear the audio and you're like, oh no, this isn't funny at all. And that's how that elevator scene comes off. Because if I heard like that on TMZ, I'd be like, oh, that sounds like it could be kind of, but then you see it and you're like, oh
yeah,
no,
it's like you hear about it. There's two sides to every story. Well, we gotta like hear more information. But yeah, there's a video.
Yeah, that video is
damning. It's damning, and I love how it comes back into the season. And I really want to get more into that, but we really got to go into spoilers.
Yeah.
Because she's speaking with her agent. We've seen in the past couple of seasons about where does her career kind of go now that Barry's in prison, and what is she to do?
Yeah, and she's publicly known as his girlfriend.
Yeah, it's like, you're the girlfriend of, a serial killer. You know what I mean? Like, I guess you could go down an avenue of being in a reality show or doing a podcast and making a lot of money that way.
Yeah, but Sally's narcissism won't let her do that. And something that I think is so beautiful is like she has so many avenues to get out of this life, but because she is so hungry for fame and glory and praise, she can't.
Yeah. It's fascinating that she would see a podcast as a step down, and that's but that's a thing when you think about the division between TV and or doing a streaming show versus being in the film.
This just getting back to what we talked about in Spider-Verse, this like perceived step down in quality of going animation versus live action, because I think that was a joke in the first season. It was like they were talking shit about an actor who just did the mocap for like Pinocchio.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, so, but there is definitely those notions that Hollywood definitely has. So seeing it portrayed in the way that Sally does, you go, yeah, this unfortunately makes sense.
Oh, and real quick, this probably has my favorite just cameo by a director I think I've ever seen.
Yes,
with
so good.
I think it's either in episode 5 or 6 where we have a cameo by Sean Heder, who directed one of my favorite films, 2021 was it? Coda, which won Best Picture.
Yes, that sounds right.
And she's like brought in as the director of this like definitely not Marvel movie. And she's talking about it was like, yeah, Coda, it was a very personal story about working with dedicated actors, and now I'm working with supermodels in Halloween costumes. I feel like the people will go to see Mega Girls and then say, that woman directed Coda, and just see the life drain out of her during that entire monologue. It's so beautiful. And I feel like that's Bill Hader shutting the door on directing a Marvel movie.
It was funny because in that moment, so how do I put this? I definitely rolled my eyes at the joke, but it's funny. Like, two things can be true. Because I got exactly what they're saying. It's like, oh, you're talking about all these, and Florence Pugh just came out and talked about how so many of her indie friends were like,
film Twitter was mad that she took the Marvel check.
Yeah, and I'm like, yo, like, these people need to eat. Like, I'm sorry, like, don't worry, darling isn't not everyone wants to get paid in dick, all right? like sometimes people need a fucking check. It's like,
motherfucker, success is not owned, it's rented. And the rent is due every day. Right? And you're about to get evicted.
It's like I don't blame her. What? I'm sorry, 8 years-ish, probably guaranteed work. I don't blame her. Should I do that shit too? But
yeah, I do that in a heartbeat.
But it's fascinating that, again, that juxtaposition of people going like, oh, it's so crazy. And Nick, we talked about off mic how people forget how much indie shit Ruffalo typically does. Like, that's pretty much all Ruffalo does. But every so often he goes, "Arr," it turns green, and people go like, "Oh, that's right, you are in these." Like,
it's like, "Arr, turn green. I need to pay off my mortgage."
Yeah, but Ruffalo, that's his. Go through his filmography. His filmography is 85% indie shit. It's kind of amazing, actually.
But going back to Barry.
Yeah, it's a man you need to check.
But going back to Barry, I think the real standout of the season is 100% Anthony Kerrigan.
Yes,
because his performance as NoHo Hank, he initially started the show as a joke character. He was like this breath of light every time he was on, and something that the show does so well is that incongruency of this character who is just so nice and so friendly, who it would probably be better suited to being like a hotel manager, and he is this hard-nosed gangster, or at least he wants to be. And very much like the theme of the show is characters getting exactly what they want in the worst way possible. And his performance, especially in the like last 5 episodes of the show, it is give this man all of the awards and give this man all of the work possible.
It's fascinating to see people, to your point, get what they want, but to see the darkness, like that, as you mentioned, that kind of monkey paw aspect of it. It's like Bedazzled without the humor and like what they get, what they want, because when it happens, you just see this slight turn, and
what was his partner's name?
Oh, Cristobal.
Cristobal.
So you don't remember going 50-50 with Cristobal?
It's so good.
50-50 with Cristobal.
So what's kind of going on with them this season is that they're trying to start their own criminal organization. They're trying to unite unite all these different gangs together and everything like that, and have this very criminal meeting inside of a Dave and Buster's amongst other witnesses. And
I mean, it is the bestest place on earth.
Dave and Buster's has never gotten better advertisement than it did.
I just got a text from my sister that next weekend my brother-in-law's birthday is going to be at Dave and Buster's.
Boom! It's working. Oh no! Sadness. Oh wait, are you going or you're not going?
No, I can't go. I have duty that weekend.
Curses.
So yeah,
I have a stream to run also.
That's true.
And Anthony Kerrigan and his character Noah Hank, it's like kind of the situation of Breaking Bad with Aaron Paul's Jesse, where his character was supposed to be killed off in the first season, or actually the very first episode. But the creators of the show liked him so much, Bill Hader and Alec Berg, that they were like, "Oh, well, we should keep him on." I think that's a brilliant decision, and I can't imagine this show without him, because he is fantastic as Noah Hank, and to see where that storyline goes with him, because there is a time skip in this. I think it was after episode 5, I think. There is an 8-year time skip that does happen in it that they go into. But we're going to get into that with the spoiler talk. So final thoughts, rating for Barry season 4. Okay.
Josh? I feel like I gave my final thoughts. I think that this is an absolutely brilliant season of television. Something that I love about this show is that for the previous 3, it danced that tightrope of balancing horrific tragedy and rip-roaring comedy. And while this season I feel like it leaned much more into the horror and the more psychological, like, drama aspects of this, I still think it's still hilariously funny.
Oh yeah,
it's like so much of it is, it's like you can't look at some of the scenes in this and not laugh. It's like, if you can. But I feel like it was just an absolute flex of direction from Bill Hader, proving that it's like, goddamn, if you give this man a project he's passionate about, he will give you an absolute stunning work of art. And the commentary I think that he does, it's so beautiful. And I think this is up there with one of my greatest series endings, because of how many interpretations you can have of it. I mean, I've been fortunate of being able to watch this multiple times. I think I've watched it 3, and every single time I've rewatched this ending, I've come away with a different interpretation of it. And I think that's something beautiful that Bill Hader and Alec Berg have managed to create with the show. I give it this is peak television. My only problem with it is that because they knew that this was going to be a final season, they did include that time skip. And I feel like we could have gotten so much more interesting stuff if we got a season playing out in between that.
I think that's a fair point.
Yeah. Hunter.
Yeah. This is right there as far as the season. It's right there with like The Wire season 2, Justified season 2, as just some of my favorite Dexter season 4, just some of my favorite seasons of TV where I just go, God, you nailed this.
Warrior season 2.
Oh well, I'll learn about it soon. But Atlanta season 3 would be in there for me too. I just love so much of what this is, and Bill Hader clearly knew where he wanted to take this. This is directed with a sort of confidence that you go, okay, you're a couple seasons in, you've worked out, whatever shortcomings you think you had, and you're flexing right now.
And I've listened to a little bit of the Prestige TV podcast where Bill Hader's come on to talk about it. I mean, the last couple episodes he's been absent because he, was in solidarity with the writer's strike, but he is that brilliant, but he always gives credit where it's due. He's always giving credit to the production designers, to the editors of the show, to the cinematographers, the DPs, and that is a mark of a great man and a great director.
Someone who knows like how great the team is around him. I'm sad this is over. As I mentioned, it's kind of crazy that you get Succession and Barry both ending on the same night. Like that's.
I mean, we have The Idol to look forward to.
Yeah. So social media is gonna be real fun tomorrow. Like I'm gonna go on Twitter just to see what people are saying. I can't wait for the bloodbath. That's gonna be
a fun thing to talk about when I'm running the show.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it'll be a real fun into the weekend. Wink, but yeah, this is cinema. This is peak television. I want where this ended up, and we'll get into that in the spoilers. Loved it.
Wow. Yeah, this is an amazing show. And this is considered one of the best shows on TV. It took me a while to kind of get into it. A lot of people telling me about it, but yeah, I finally jumped onto it and we reviewed it, and we reviewed up till season 3. I think a while ago.
Yeah, we reviewed the first 2 seasons when right before season 3 was premiering, because I kept bugging you about it. I kept saying, like, dude, we have to talk about this show. And it was like, prior to season 3, the season 2 episode Ronnie and Lily, it was in my list of favorite episodes of television of all time. I think it was like 2 or 3.
Yeah. So yeah, the hype paid off. I think the hype kind of was definitely up there with the show, and I think I very much love it a lot. I have to probably watch all these seasons again to see like which one is the best one. But I do think sometimes it's tough. Series finales, going out on a strong ending is kind of tough sometimes, and I think it does end very well. Hey, have a good night, Cat Name. Thank you for staying for so long. Have a good one. But yeah, and I do think it has an amazing kind of finale there. Great work by Alec Berg, Bill Hader. It's a great show. I love all the characters in this show. I love how they all feel like really full, fleshed out characters. They all have these kind of being such terrible people. They make for such interesting people. Sally and everything like that.
It's a very hard thing to write absolutely deplorable people and to have them be this compelling. In many ways, you're able to still sympathize with them.
Yeah. And I think it's a testament to how great the show is. It makes it really followed very, very well. So for me, I definitely give this peak television. Peak television here. Spoiler talk for the show of Barry.
Are we doing spoiler talk now?
So the first big spoiler is I love the first 2 episodes that we got, because it premiered the first 2 episodes on the same night, and I think it's either the first or the second, and it because a Vanity Fair reporter is snooping around the story trying to get like the real scoop, and it's almost like Gene Cousineau can't help himself.
Yeah.
And he does an entire one-man show about the events of the previous 3 seasons, But of course, because Kusuno has to be seen as like greater than he is, he embellishes the story. He gives Barry in the show like a lisp. He drops like the key detail that ends up fucking him in the end.
Yeah, that irony was not lost on me because it's like we were talking about. He got such an incredible ending and a way to close out that chapter of his life. He captured the man who killed the woman he loved. Like he should be able to move on.
He now has the chance to move on, be happy with the mended relationship he has with his estranged son and his grandson.
Yeah,
and he
it's not
just can't help himself.
And it's it's incredibly tragic in that way because Gene, at a point, the show does a great job. You really feel like he's evolving and he is trying to be better.
Watching Gene in this show, it felt like watching Howard in Uncut Gems. It was like,
that's a good comparison.
It's like, bro, you had an out.
Yeah, like the off, like because there is this point, and not to get too deep here, but I think when you're fucking around or fucking up, I do think sometimes the universe will actually give you an off ramp. Be like, okay, we're giving you a chance to get out while the getting's good. Kind of like when you go to a casino and you're up, a couple hundred. Like you just leave now. You're good. Like you got more money than when you came in. And sometimes people just don't take the fucking hint, and it's that for pretty much everyone. And that's what's so fascinating because everyone just refuses to let the shit go.
Everybody is like NoHo Hank. Him and Cristobal have the chance to build this like really. It's like even though they are still associating with like gangsters and criminals, they're trying to build a legitimate business. They're just still using those illegal connections. But Hank can't help himself. He wants so bad to be like this hard gangster, this like badass criminal. And through it, he ends up losing the love of his life. And the last thing that's on Cristobal's mind is fuck you, Hank.
Yeah. And it like, so
and something that I want to get into, it's just this beautiful juxtaposition because the previous season finale, it was NoHo Hank like chained in this little dungeon, and we just hear the sound design of this tiger that they have just mauling his compatriots. We just hear this sounds of the torture that Cristobal is being put through, and here all of that sound is just cut out, and we're just left with Anthony Kerrigan's performance and just seeing and feeling and getting to stew in that heartbreak that he's feeling.
It's so frustrating because to your point, he has like and the whole business they're coming up with that's legitimate. It's actually fucking clever. Like when you
kind of brilliant.
Like, I was like, that actually makes a lot of sense, and it's really simple. But it's almost too simple that you would just not think about it. Like that's what's kind of brilliant. Like when you take a step back, you're like, okay, and Hank just he can't help himself. And Fuchs, I won't lie, I was sad because I wanted Fuchs to die because I can't stand Fuchs. Like there's just a point where I'm like, God, this guy fucking sucks.
He's like such a despicable snake.
Yeah.
It's like
he really is.
Yeah, even in the first episode, he's talking to the FBI and trying to like work out this deal with them. And the second that Barry apologizes to him, he reneges on all of that, and he's trying to establish a gang in prison as the Raven, which he was dubbed.
Well, it's crazy too because Fuchs is in that same space in the sense of he just can't let Barry go. He's so angry that Barry would even dare think about having a life independent of him that it drives him literally insane. And you're just sitting there going like, dude, you're on this random ass plot of land with this like this woman who's way too attractive for you.
With this bad as fuck Chechen girl, which sup?
Sup, girl. And he goes out of his way to go back.
and he gets told the story of like a man seeking revenge. He like prays to the gods. He gets an army of panthers, but he ends up just ruining his own life. And his response is, "So when does the army of panthers come?"
Yeah, and there's just a point about halfway through season 2 where you just know Barry's not going to make it. Like you're just like like this can't end with him being okay.
No, this character does not deserve like the fucking like Dexter ending. He does not deserve to ride off into the sunset.
And that was straight up what drove me nuts about season 8 of Dexter is how like because there's just a point where he's poisoning everyone. It's like, dude, he can't.
Yeah, and this show, it does so beautifully. It showcases, it delves into just how malignant a presence that Barry Berkman is.
Well said. And it just, and so, but I was happy he didn't get some glorious death. Like he got a very quick.
He got the, and I think I sent you the clip of this.
Yeah,
he got the SNL skit death.
Yeah, but that takes me to the ending just real quick.
Yeah, the ending I think is so fascinating because
go ahead, talk about
the ending of this. It's like we get another time jump after Kusuno kills Barry. It's just a very sudden thing. It's like Barry's getting ready, is talking to Kusuno's manager. He's like, "Yeah, my wife and my kid aren't here." It's like, "You should probably call the cops. I'll turn myself in." Because he at that point he has nothing left to like keep going for. He's like, "Okay, I'll try and listen to what they said and face the music." And Kusuno just shoots him and kills him.
Yeah, shoots him twice. Yeah, once in the shoulder.
And
Barry's last words, "Oh wow."
It's like almost like shock is like, "Wow, you were the one that got me."
Yeah.
But in his head, I could imagine his real last words were, "Oh, what you say?" But then we get another time jump. We see his son, who's now played by Jaden Martell, Sally, who's like a play director at a high school, and Jaden Martell as John Berkman. He goes to a friend's house and sees the movie that was made based on the story that was set up through this season. It was like they were making a movie based on Barry Berkman and Gene Kusuno. And we see this very warped interpretation of the story that frames Kusuno as the real villain and Barry as just a kid who got strung along by a manipulator, which is very much in line with the version that Kusuno told in that one-man show, and he murdered the one man who could have exonerated him.
Wait, isn't his older son played by Noah Schnapp?
No, that's Jaden Martell from It.
Yeah, Schnapp. Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was the kid from Strain. Oh, damn.
Noah Schnapp. Wow, not all white people look like. Jeez.
Oh, my bad. I could have sworn I thought that was the kid from Stranger Things.
Damn.
I mean, they didn't give him a horrible wig in this. I mean, I feel like that
is also true.
The indicator. but we get this. We get this constant, like, almost reverse shot where we see clips of this movie play along. It's warped versions of the story of the show, just framing Barry as a tragic hero, and we see his son's reaction to it. And I came away with like three interpretations of this ending because this fake movie ends with Gene Kusuno is serving life in prison for the murder of Janice Mox and Barry Berkman, and PFC Barry Berkman has been buried in Arlington Cemetery with full honors. And it ends with just this like wry little smile from Jaden Martell.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the interpretations I had is like Sally told him exactly what kind of man Barry is and told him the real story. And he is smiling because he knows this movie is bullshit. 2, Sally told like hints of it, but he's still choosing to believe that is the real story, the one that's told in the movie. Or that's 3, Sally kept him completely ignorant, and this is the first time he's hearing all of that.
I'm leaning more towards option 2. That's where I fell on it, because I could also see, considering how young he was when he's told what he's told by Sally, that's something that he might have just put.
Yeah, and like immediately after he was told that, he was involved in a shootout.
Yeah, so that's something that he might just suppress like a motherfucker.
Yeah, and 2, I don't think Sally is like a character that is that open and honest with her son, because he tells her that that he loves her, and her response is, "Do you think that everybody liked the play that I just directed?"
Yeah, which that so
well. Because we kind of jumped all the way to the end there and then kind of missed the middle part there. Like first, there was a time skip there, and that, and then before the time skip, we see that one of the last scenes is that Barry broke out of prison, and then we broke out of prison. He went to Sally's house because he's still obsessed with her. And I want to kind of get into real quick about, I mean, why do you think that she went with him?
It's easy. Go ahead, Nick.
It's because in this like idealized version of her like life and career, because before she was trying to steal a role from one of her acting students in a project that she would have 100% talked so much shit about. It's like, this movie where it's just like supermodels and Halloween costumes. It's just like all acting with blue screen. There's no real story here. And she's trying to steal that role.
Yeah. Like,
it's shameless, and she tries and fails, and even like that acting student's manager is like, yeah, I know what you're doing, and I can't blame you for it, but yeah, not gonna happen. But I'll keep you on, and we'll give you $70,000 for a role.
Yeah, like that part was hilarious to me. But the reason she goes with Barry is because Barry sees her the way that she wants to be seen. Like, it's just that simple.
That's all. Yeah, that's always been their relationship. It's Barry idealizes her. He like treats her like a princess the same way that her father did.
Yep.
And she chooses to accept that while ignoring everything else about him.
And yeah, it's crazy how much she's willing to just like, he's even trying to pitch it to her because he knows how like hard of a sell it is. And she just goes, let's go. And I went, bitch, like, come on now. And
I was like, not even skipping a beat.
Yeah, as my high ass revealed earlier, they end up having a kid. And that's honestly when I went, I hope you both die. Because it's one thing to have your bullshit with your partner, but to bring, the whole sins of the father thing, to pass that shit onto a kid is really fucked. And that kid,
and not only bring a child into it, but raise him in this kind of at times hilariously fucked up way, because they're very isolated. John, in the brief scenes we see, doesn't spend a lot of time around a lot of kids. He grows up in a very, very warped interpretation of Christianity, and he's like, the kid like just talks about like playing baseball once, and Barry's reaction is show him a bunch of clips of baseball fails, which I definitely may or may not have looked up on YouTube after to see if those were real.
Were they?
I will neither confirm nor deny.
But it's crazy how much they're gaslighting their kids, just like at every turn. Like this kid, to your point, Nick, can't have a normal childhood, and it's so fucked up, honestly, because this kid, he just wants to play baseball. He just wants to hang out with kids his age. Very not crazy want from a child.
Very normal desires for a child, and something you should do as a parent.
And even the way that Barry's talking about himself during the time he served, he's putting such a spin on it. And what's so fascinating about the ending in regards to how Barry portrays himself, this is 101 the problem I had with American Sniper. And that was early on in me doing the podcast. And I was like, y'all, like, this is really problematic with how Islamophobic this guy was. And he was in the military, and we're just going like, yeah, Oscars. It's like, that's really like, but Hollywood does that so much.
Hollywood idealizes these a lot of these American servicemen with tragic backstories, and they exaggerate and they spin a lot of the actual details to the point where it might as well just be pure fiction. I mean, I've talked about it when we reviewed that Tom Holland movie Cherry, is where the book that Nico Walker wrote was very, very matter of fact about and very straightforward about, you know, his struggles getting out of the service and his drug addiction. And the movie just chooses to be Fight Club made by less talented people.
God damn. Not wrong.
Yeah. So you have that kind of going on with Barry and Sally when they kind of went off. Like I said, she went off with him. Went into this kind of secluded part of the world, closed off for everyone because, of course, he was on the run. Feud stayed in prison for those 8 years, came out, you know what I mean, and came out as, you know, the Raven. Came out, has a gang, just like locks eyes with a lady at the coffee bean, is like riding in the backseat with her like the next scene later.
Yeah, kind of like his Super Shredder moment. Like, this is the closest Fuchs will get to being a badass. Which I mean, credit where it's due, I guess, because he actually comes out like still a piece of shit, but like doesn't need it, like a piece of shit that doesn't need everyone like to throw people in front of him. It's like, oh, okay, he could probably handle himself. Go figure.
Yeah. Which makes his decision in the finale so fascinating.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. With Noah Hank, you see that, you know, after he killed his partner, that eventually kind of went on and kind of dedicated things into his name, you know, tried to, it's like, you know, has a statue of him, you know, gets into this real estate, trying to do the legitimate business that him and his partner originally wanted to do. You know, has, you know, quotes of him everywhere, you know, even the quote he has about Dave and Buster's. He's like, life should be, you know what I mean? Like a Dave and Buster's. So he's that kind of going on. What do you kind of think about that with kind of the time skips there with some of the characters like Noah Hank and like with Fuse there?
I liked it. I don't think Nick's wrong in the sense of there is this could have easily been the middle season before the time jump if they wanted to get this to 5 seasons. I don't think that's a complaint, but I think that's a very fair thing to. I'd be curious to actually ask Bill Hader that. I'd be like, why not end with 5? Why end with 4? Because so many shows end with 5, dramas especially.
I think he actually touched on that. I think it was a decision that came about through the pandemic because season 3 got delayed for so long because production got shut down because of COVID. So he said, okay, I don't know if something like this could happen again. I don't know if HBO is going to lose interest in this. So why not end the show on my terms?
Interesting. Okay. That would make sense. But I do love the ending of the film because it really does talk about how we change up. I mean, I was hearing that about that Dahmer show that Ryan Murphy did and how like a lot of people, rightfully so, I'm sure that's Ryan Murphy, were pissed the fuck off that he took all these fucking liberties. And you know, I don't need to talk about Elvis because I've talked about that once or twice on here. But it's
we clearly hear Bill Hader's thoughts on shows and films and even true crime stuff like that in the show.
Yeah, like he's not subtle about it. But as I've said about Spike Lee, I don't think people can catch subtlety anymore. So I'd rather have someone be a little more aggressive with their message when you need to be. And I think this is a case where I think Hader nails what he's trying to say.
We've tried carrot. Here's the stick.
Right. Well said. But it's the violence in here is something I've always appreciated because it doesn't feel glamorous. It feels like it would in real life as far as the gravity of it. And there's an assassination attempt on Barry that is one of the funniest fucking moments in the whole goddamn show. Like it caught me so off guard.
It has a, especially for you SNL fans, it has a long-awaited SNL cameo.
So good.
From Fred Armisen.
I was dying. I was like, wait, what the fuck? I was like, oh shit, that's Armisen. Let's go. But the way that whole scene plays out is funny and also fucked up at the same time because you get that initial laugh, but then what follows, you're like, oh shit. Yeah, you're like, oh, that's right, it's this show. And God, the show's just so great about doing that, kind of giving that, giving you that moment, and then remind you like this gets fucked up. When NoHo Hank breaks down and actually admits out loud that he killed Cristobal, that's one of those moments where I went, yeah, this is like the Emmy scene right here. Like he really needs to be getting nominated for this role. He kills it.
Yeah, and that's so fascinating because he never actually says the word.
Yeah.
He just admits it quietly to himself and says, you know what, suicide by Fuchs.
Yeah.
And like you say, doing so well with the series, blending the comedy, blending the kind of the darker elements of it. Because when one element that really stands out, I thought was really funny in this was when Fuchs comes back, when he comes, kind of gets out of prison, goes to see NoHo Hank. And then, first, they have a good relationship, sets him up in a place. Then they start beefing. And then eventually NoHo Hank sends guys to try to kill him, and he sends the heads back.
Oh my God, so good.
And then in the boxes, and then he's looking through the boxes like, I think these are heads. And he looks through each box and goes like, why am I still looking at these boxes? Like, clearly there's still heads in these boxes. Why am I still looking at this? So I think that stuff is really fantastic. And then, eventually all these characters culminating to the penultimate episode. And then, actually, I think that's the finale there. Where they all kind of come together then have this standoff where it's like, NoHo Hank, and then there's Fuchs, and then you think Barry's going to come because eventually there comes a point in time where Barry has to stop hiding and then come out and go back to LA. Because
it's not even that he has to stop hiding. He just sees an article that Gene Cousineau comes out of hiding while a Barry Berkman movie is being produced. And he's like, I got to go kill Fuchs. And he spends the entire trip back there listening to like religious podcasts, trying to look for like one justification of murder. And the second he hears one, it's like, okay, there it is.
Yeah. Because Gene Cousineau went into hiding after Barry escaped. He just went away there. He comes back only, because they're about to do a movie about Barry's life, the studio, and he's like, I think I come back. And like Hunter was pointing out.
Yeah. And something that's so fascinating about that is that my interpretation, Gene wanted to hear their pitch. And the second that he heard that Barry was going to be the protagonist of that movie, he said,
yes,
okay, I'm pulling all support.
Exactly. That is exactly how I read that. It wasn't the fact that they were making a movie. It's the fact that he wasn't front and center. And that is insane when you take that half a second to think about it. Because it's like, dude, like, You're profiting off of this woman. Like, let's call it what it is. He didn't know for a super long time. Like, you're profiting off her death. Like, that should be like that should gross you out enough. And it's fascinating how, when you think, and even his son thinks like, oh man, I'm he's ready to move on. He's ready to move forward. And he cannot help himself. Like, he thinks he's entitled to a certain level of fame, very much like Sally does. And it's like, no, you can't be happy with being, let's be real, better off than 80% of people, 90% of people. I mean, he's getting to do those master classes, like the one, like those aren't cheap. It's like, dude, like you could do this for the rest of your life and be good. But no, he wants that whole Hollywood lifestyle, and it's so insane how if people just take the goddamn off ramp and be happy, but getting in the way of your own happiness, it's fascinating because it makes you think like, does he really want it? You know what I mean? Like, because when you self-sabotage that much, like, do you really want these things that you think you do? Or like, it's an interesting discussion because Barry was scot-free. Barry was good, and he just couldn't help himself and got himself killed. It's weird.
But you don't think he comes back to LA for a good reason to kill him? Because it's like, I think it was like, he's going to tell too much information, and then if the movie comes out, then we're going to be more exposed. Everything like that. I
mean, you're already in hiding.
Exactly. That was. Yeah, like what? Like,
what changes after that movie comes out? It was like you have to go even more hiding. It was like, They're already there.
And that's what Sally's telling him, basically. Like, dude, like, we're here. He's all the way over there. Like, what could he possibly say, like, outside of our address that would actually put us more danger than we're in now? And Barry doesn't really have an answer for her. You know, he spins to some scripture bullshit. And you're just like, dude, which very fun the way they point out how people weaponize the scripture. That, especially for Pride Month, keep that in mind, everyone.
Yeah. That was my favorite little joke. The second he hears like one semi-religious podcast like talk about sometimes you have to kill somebody, is like, there you go.
Cool, I'm good. The fact that there's this very honest moment where Sally and him and their kid is in between them, and they're on this this hotel room, and she flat looks at him, goes, "You need to take responsibility for what you've done and turn yourself in." And without missing a beat, without a sense of irony, he looks her dead in the eye and goes, "I don't think that's what God's will is." And I just start, and I cannot express the level of eye roll I felt, because I've heard that shit so much. It's like, oh, you fucker.
My eyes were rolling so fast they could travel back in time.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those moments where you go like, yeah, a lot of people just say it for the status and say it for appearances. It's like, God damn, you don't believe a goddamn word of what you preach. It's such a fascinating moment. And that was even from like the stamp of me going like, oh yeah, dude, you can't be allowed to live. Like, you need to go. Like, it's so weird. So fucked up.
And like you said, I mean, I really Fugues. I mean, because he's such a rat character.
Oh yeah.
And usually those rat characters typically live, pretty long. You know,
they do. Yeah.
Usually. Yeah. But again, that was a perfect scene too, because it did this whole shootout, and it ended in this kind of comedic kind of way. Because the grenade is just somebody slipped out of their hand and just went off, and horrifying moments, and the violence does feel visceral, but it's also just kind of the comedy of errors here of these people, of how bumbling a lot of these criminals can be.
It's like setting up this big action set piece as like Barry goes to essentially a Rite Aid, just buys a bunch of guns and is just strolling right out there with them strapped to his back through the toy section. I was like,
the commentary on gun violence is very apropos, because he just walks up and says guns. That's all he says. He didn't even say what sort of gun I want.
He like has like 3 M4 strapped to his back and is just strolling on out through the toy section. Doesn't even take them off to get into his car, by the way.
And see, the commentator I took away from that was that that's like when you go to a bar, you go, surprise me. Like, the guy just handed him a couple guns and went, here, dude. And Barry went perfect and just walked out. And it's like, holy shit. Like, if, it's a very dark scene, like, as funny as it is. But when you think about the context, it's like, oh, fuck. He was in his bag this season.
Great season, great show. And we already said, peak television. Peak cinema there all around for Barry. Any final thoughts on it before we move on?
It's like this, just off the strength of the season, that Barry probably goes down as one of the most satisfying series as a whole of TV of all time, at least for me personally. Being able to watch this from beginning to end, being a little bit on the train when it was first airing, and then getting into it, watching it week to week as the seasons progress, and getting to this ending and rewatching it and seeing all of the context and all the build up for it ended so satisfyingly. So much of what artist's intent was versus final product, and getting to that and having those two mesh beautifully. It's a rare thing in television.
Well said. I'm so happy this ended on the high note that it did. It really just felt like a season that was completely earned. To the people who are saying this season isn't funny, it's just the darkest humor that they've had. Like, it's still funny as hell, but there's a lot of shit that you're like,
it is like the blackest of black comedy.
Yeah, it's very depth. Like something like it runs to something like Death to Smoochie. Where I was just like, this is fucked up that these two, children star TV show people are trying to kill each other. I'm like, but that's kind of amazing. But yeah, this is a very dark season, but it needs to be for everything it's wrapping up and what it's trying to say. But yeah, Hader. I hope Hader works with A24. I feel like that's a no doubt at this point. Bill Hader doing the A24 horror movie would kick so much ass.
I would be there midnight, day 1, day 2, day 3.
like come on, Hader. But absolutely amazing season of television. I'm sad it's good. I'm sad it's gone. I'm sad it's over, but I'm excited to see what this takes Hader next, and everyone in the cast. Everyone in the cast deserves just all the things off of these performances.
Yeah. Amazing performances, amazing show, amazing kind of creative process behind this. Definitely will miss it. People remark this as one of kind of the best shows out right now.
Yeah.
So it is, kind of somber that it is ending. But like you said, good it's ending on its own terms. It didn't go out, you went out on a great note. It didn't drag its feet in getting out. So I did appreciate that with this season 4. Loved a lot of the endings and conclusions for a lot of characters. What happened with Gene Cousineau, Henry Winkler's character, Sally, Reed, her life, the life she's living now, just kind of being this stage director at a high school, everything like that. And, kind of like how that kind of working out for her and how kind of maybe a sad existence that is for her.
Yeah.
So yeah, rip NoHo Hank. I mean, he died. But he died, hey, at least holding his partner's hands, even though if it was a golden statue there. But
that broke me. That shit. I was like, oh fuck.
So yeah. Amazing show. Can't wait to see what Bill Hader does next. I'd be excited to see his directorial debut. As far as
feature directorial debut.
Yeah, feature film directorial debut there. So yeah, that was Barry, season 4.